Well, Manchester United have made big changes this summer. Let's head there now and join our reporter Daniel Kahn. Dan, United, it feels like, have been busy right up until the deadline and maybe beyond as well. Fill us in. What's been happening?
Yeah, I mean, Emma, you're absolutely right, actually. You know, they got so many of their big name transfers done earlier on this window with the likes of Benjamin Šeško, Brian Mbeumo and Matthias Cunha, but they are very close to confirming that deadline day signing in terms of Senne Lammens. We reported earlier today a fee agreed with the Royal Antwerp for just over £18 million for the 23-year-old Belgian. He's been at the training ground throughout the afternoon undergoing his medical before he puts pen to paper to a 5-year contract, as we understand it. United looked and analysed many options in the goalkeeping position, especially when you look at the last few weeks of the season, where there's been questionable perhaps performances by Andre Onana and Altay Bayindir, for example, in the Grimsby game, even debatably in the Burnley game as well. But it looks like they've acted. Rúben Amorim has acted as well to bring Lammens in. Still waiting official confirmation. But what I can tell you is we have had official confirmation of 2 other deals to do with Manchester United in the last half an hour. And those are 2 departures that were really important for United to do. One came in Antony, who signed 3 years ago to the day, Emma, for well over £80 million. His return to Real Betis has been confirmed for just over £21 million. United do have, though, a 50% net sell-on clause in that deal, so he is off to Spain. Rasmus Højlund, who signed a few summers ago from Atalanta for well over £70 million, £72 million actually, he has had his move to Napoli confirmed. That is a loan with a conditional obligation to buy if Napoli reach the Champions League. That fee is around £38 million, and he joins his former teammate in Scott McTominay. Kevin De Bruyne is now there as well. And this day, although it looks like Lammens could be their big signing in terms of incoming, I think the departures have been just important today. Jadon Sancho still close to confirming that loan to Aston Villa. As I mentioned, Anthony Højlund, got Nacho in the last week as well, all out of the club, all off the wage bill, and all, more importantly, not part of Rúben Amorim's plans going forward. And United have found solutions for those players, which maybe will be just important as bringing in Lammens. We await official confirmation, but we'll bring that to you as soon as we get it.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Welcome back. You are watching Back Pages tonight. It's a transfer deadline day special. Still with me, Miguel, Jonathan and John. As promised, we wanted to talk about the situation at Manchester United in terms of the goalkeepers. I mean, all their goalkeepers have come under fire. The Sun have gone with gloverly business for Manchester rivals. They've got Senne Lammens in, and there was talk of Emi Martinez coming in. Why do you think they've gone for Senne Lammens and not Martinez? I
mean, well, there has been talk all day that Martinez ultimately fell down, possibly because they couldn't get a permanent move for Sancho. I know Sancho's gone to Villa on loan. I'm not sure if that's absolutely true, but it has been the talk all day. And it is a slightly surprising one that maybe it's actually a decision maybe that articulates this kind of delicate point that Manchester United are at, because obviously they've staked a lot on Rúben Amorim. But they also don't want to make the mistake, I suppose, of making every single signing anchored to an individual manager, so that if there is a change, I'm not sure there's going to be, then suddenly they have to change again, because that's been one of the problems at Manchester United. And now, Lammens, he's seen as someone who can be a sensational goalkeeper in the future. And I think from what I was told yesterday, the thinking was that, they could miss out on him and then he could go on and be brilliant elsewhere, and then they'd have felt that they could have done the deal for much cheaper. So that's one of the rationale. But I suppose it's just a strange one because, look, a goalkeeper is already an isolated position. We've talked about Old Trafford and Donnarumma already. At Manchester United, it feels all the more isolated right now, given Manchester United is a punishing environment for a young player without experience at the moment, because the glare is so strong. It's not just the weight of the United shirt, it's the weight of United disarray. So suddenly, if a young player makes one error, especially in goals, I don't want to be talking him down already, it's just more, I suppose, what he's walking into, then that can have an effect. But who knows, we might be talking about a sensation here who immediately can stand up, who has actually that personality. Because I suppose that's maybe where there was some surprise they didn't go for Martinez, because he's got all sorts of personality, and that's what United have needed, really.
Did it surprise you, Jonathan? I mean, Martinez might have seen a very good fit there, somebody that could marshal the back.
Yeah, and obviously he's a personality. I think if you're looking at the modern United and the regime, looking at in terms of resale value, looking in terms of younger players who essentially you can move on if they don't work out. And the one thing we know about United is that it's probably not going to work out. I'm not going to pretend that I've seen like 90 minutes of every game he's played. But they say he's like decent command of his area. He's good range of passing, and the track record of goalkeepers coming from the Belgian Pro League to the Premier League it's actually not bad. You think of Courtois and Mignolet, but also Matt Sells and Bart Verbruggen at Brighton. So what we don't know, obviously, is, like Miguel says, how he will handle the pressure, the scrutiny. Every single mistake will be scrutinised in minute detail, and also like the chaos of the Premier League penalty area. The goal mouth is refereed much differently in the Premier League to how it is in a lot of other countries, and it's that adaptation which I think is a big tell for how a keeper's going to fare.
Yeah, and is it also a bit of a story, the fact that they potentially, Manchester United, and I don't know for sure, but you'd think that they might have been in for the likes of Donnarumma, and perhaps Manchester United are not the pulling power they perhaps once were?
No, it's been an interesting summer, hasn't it? Because on the one hand, they were still able to attract Šeško ahead of other big clubs, and Bruno turned down Spurs to go to Old Trafford, and so that those sort of things played into it. Cunha, I'm sure, could have had his pick of other clubs, but indeed, set it out very early on. I want Old Trafford, and so basically, I do still think United have a pulling power. I do think part of the issue there for Donnarumma is I do think he wanted a big payday. I think he's probably got a bigger payday at City, and City obviously offer him Champions League football, which he's obviously become very accustomed to and very successful at. Yeah. So you've got those that I do think that I think opposing teams will now feast upon a young goalkeeping signing and say, okay, let's see what you're about, because basically it's almost become such a problem position, and this is a massive test for a newcomer. And I do think when you talk about personalities, I think Martinez would have been up for the challenge and would have loved that and would have been good at it. And I think now they are taking a bit of another gamble on a sort of somewhat unproven younger goalkeeper. They've got a few of those on the books already. I mean, Altai's had a couple of really bad games, and they're stacking up these goalkeepers that are not working. And here's another one that's kind of, straight into the line of fire.
It is interesting where they are. So basically, for the two most isolated positions on the pitch, where either you can save your team or potentially make big errors, or offer match winners or miss big chances. They've got two players that have to adapt to the Premier League. One, the new goalkeeper, and Šeško, obviously. And I'm not saying that's necessarily going to be bad in the long run, but it's for a team that are where they are, which is where they start to need assurance. There's like an element of uncertainty about both.
It's interesting. I just want to, because I've got all three of you here from the media and myself as well, included in that. But the fact that they say that they do Manchester United come under more scrutiny than any other team. Mboma was talking about it at the weekend. Harry Maguire's spoken about that. Is that something you'd agree with?
Oh, absolutely. And also, this is always the case historically, going back to when Matt Busby made them a great kind of international club. But now, we're in an era, obviously, where it's gone to a whole other dimension, given we're talking about 12 super clubs. They're massively popular around the globe, despite the last decade. And the whole kind of social media brings a total other element to it. And yeah, that does increase the scrutiny, especially because, players, before they could probably shut out this stuff easier, but now, just to go online, they can see all sorts of noise about themselves.
Yeah.
100% it does. They wouldn't have it any other way, by the way.
Yeah.
Because, they are the self-proclaimed biggest club in the world. Basically, that's how they want to be perceived. The spotlight is on them. I was fascinated by that game against Burnley on Saturday. What would happen? And basically, we all watched, didn't we, sort of kind of in a ghoulish fashion about what would happen at Grimsby. You're watching that game and thinking, couldn't possibly, could they? And it's just amazing, this kind of Man United soap opera. But make no mistake about it, when they're good, they're absolutely brilliant. They're dominated for 20 years under Fergie, and we're untouchable. So, that's the standard that they set themselves, and at the moment they're miles off it, and that's the problem that United have. But yeah, they are absolutely under the media spotlight, and they do get more attention, and they kind of